Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that my group would like to propose an extra item into the budget for 2017-18. The additional amount is £9,000 and is to cover an outreach worker for 1 day a week from Two Saints to support the homeless people in our town, as they have said they have a high demand, and that is Two Saints have a high demand in dealing with these people. We believe that we should enter into a 3-year contract with Two Saints for a maximum of £30,000 over a 3-year period, being split 2017-18 at 9,000, 18-19 10,000, 19-20 11,000. The last two figures are to cover employment increases in those years over the current year. And they are round figures because we don't know what central government may or may not do in changes to employment costs. I have evidence from Two Saints that the current annual cost would be £8,625. But on that basis, that's why I rounded it to 9,000, so I think it's best to just talk in the round figure. Believe that this could be funded from spending reserves which stand at £2.413 million. I'm sure we all understand the issues of the homeless, that in many cases they need help to get back into accommodation, away from the drink and the drugs, and then into a job. It's a vicious circle for them to get out of their circumstances. The Two Saints outreach worker already works with the homeless for 1 day a week in Fareham, and by us funding a second day, this will be a major step forward to help these people. As I understand it, new homeless people seem to come to Fareham all the time. The work that Two Saints already do has helped people out of their difficulties through the numerous contacts they have. This extra day will mean that they can even do more to help those who are in that unfortunate situation. We have already, as a council, put in place the Public Space Protection Order, which can deal with the antisocial behaviour of people in the town centre. A properly funded outreach worker working with the homeless and other unfortunates around the town centre and possibly elsewhere in the borough will assist the working of the Public Space Protection Order. This will be the best solution to help those people. As I am sure all members of the Executive are aware that there is a homeless reduction bill going through Parliament, and provided it is passed, this could place new responsibilities on the Council to help those who are in need. Let us again show the way forward by agreeing to this small expenditure before the Act of Parliament forces us to take action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Price. Obviously the correct place to have brought forward a budget amendment would have been the Scrutiny Board when they considered the budget a little while ago, but obviously you've brought it forward now, so it means I'm going to have to ask you some questions that the Scrutiny Board might have asked. So can you just say how many hours did you say this would, 9,000 would fund?
It would fund a worker for 1 day or an extra a week throughout the year. Okay. So I'm assuming a normal working day of 8 or 9 hours.
Okay, and why are you proposing this should be somebody employed by an outside organisation rather than by Fareham Borough Council?
The reason I'm proposing that Two Saints is Two Saints already do this, and they actually work with the homeless in the town centre and have many contacts where they can point people and actually try and help them and resolve their issues. And it seemed better to have somebody who's already doing it, knows the problems, knows the contacts, rather than bringing somebody else in from wherever. But if that was a preferred route, I have no problems with that.
Okay, and in terms of evidence, the only evidence I've seen recently is significant reductions in numbers of apparent homeless people on our streets. Do you have any figures, or is that something we need to find out?
I don't have actual figures, but by walking around one has the impression, and I think my colleague may expand upon that issue of the number of people that are seen around in the town centre sleeping rough.
Okay, it appears to be vastly reduced. We obviously need to know before we spend on anything.
I'm not sure that is the case.
I am, but I think Councillor Cartwright, can you comment on that?
Yes, I mean, I think on this particular one, you know, it sounds very attractive, but I think one's got to be careful in that Two Saints aren't the only agency that deals with homeless people. I sit on a monthly basis with the Chief Inspector on the Partnership Action Group, and we get all the agencies who actually sit there. And my view really is that, you know, there are a lot of agencies who would all like help in that way. So why Two Saints, I guess, is the question. And the other point is, we were talking about reduction is, I can assure you that, having spoken to the police of what went on in the summer, which I think you're all aware of, and what's actually going on now is hugely reduced to what it used to be in the summer, certainly. But certainly, you know, my question really is, why Two Saints when there's, you know, there must be at least another 10 agencies that deal with homeless people. You know, why can't they have additional monies in that respect?
Okay. Anyway, let's move on now then to Councillor Cunningham, and we can obviously discuss the points.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just been given some information from my colleague actually, who just informed me that the actual increase in homeless is gone from 6 to 18. That's the information that I have.
So is that information that we have, or is that information that...
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, every autumn we would do an estimated count, and the councillor is correct that at the time of the count there were 18 as opposed to 6 the previous year. However, the situation has changed since then quite considerably, so if you would just bear with me a second, I'll let you know what's happened to those 18. Of those, 8 are currently engaging with local support services and are working towards finding settled accommodation. So they're now either staying at the hostel or occupying emergency beds. 6 of those are not currently accepting any offer of support because they have multiple and complex problems, and I'm not sure that an additional outreach worker is going to deal with those particular problems. 2 individuals of that count of 18 are now in prison. One's been supported in private rented accommodation, and one's been supported to return to their original area outside of Hampshire. But I think it's also worth pointing out, of those 18, 9 do not emanate from Fareham Borough. They've come from other boroughs to within the borough. So the danger of looking at a snapshot it is precisely that this situation is fluid and changing. But of those 18, a considerable number of those have either engaged with us or left the borough.
Okay, so I think we need to treat that figure with a great deal of caution and do carry on.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Homeless is actually in the increase in the nation, in the country in general. We're talking about a homeless figure now of people over the last 12 months of around about 16%. Over the last 3 years, homeless has shot up to roughly about 50%, I think, than it was 3 years ago. So there has been an increase in homelessness, and it's projected to increase further. Now, Fareham's homeless figure is obviously smaller than that. But nevertheless, homeless figure has risen. And actually, the residents of the borough are actually aware of it, because I've received 3 letters recently from residents, not in my ward actually, but from other areas within Fareham, pointing out their concerns about homeless issues. So, reading those letters, it's clear to me that the residents of Fareham are aware of an increase in homelessness in Fareham Town Centre. Now, as I walk through Fareham Town Centre, you come across the usual group of drinkers, and actually they basically never change, do they? The issues are there. We all know about those issues. But the other day when I was walking through there, I did meet them, a little chat. Nothing, as I say, nothing changes. I moved on. But I became aware of a couple of faces I've never seen before, because I usually walk through that town centre every day. New faces that I haven't seen before. And one particular young man actually caught my eye. He was, 19 years old, whole life in front of him. Yet, there he was in a doorstep, in a shop front, in the freezing cold, whole life in front of him. Yet, there he was, just sitting there. I take the view that we need to change the direction of those people. Because otherwise, where is that young man going? It'll just create further problems for himself, but even further problems socially as well. Huge costs. So we need to get in there and start talking to these people. So sometimes talking to people actually we may not be able to open doors, but we can actually open a window sometimes and get some light into these people's lives and give them some sort of direction or help. So my thoughts are that these extra hours would be very welcome in the town centre if we're going to start dealing with some of these problems, because homelessness is increasing. There's no doubt about it. It is increasing. And I think as a society we ought to be doing something more. That if it's just that little bit extra, put those little bit of extra hours in for an outreacher to talk to these people and give them some direction for them so they can change their lives around. And I hope the executive will actually at least examine it and explore the possible revenue to see whether or not we can actually achieve it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. What are we spending at the moment on our homelessness responsibilities? Do you know what the figure is? I realise this budget is just talking about health and housing, 1.2 million, but do you know the breakdown, Mr. Warner?
Chairman, I don't have the detailed breakdown in front of me, but the budget for homelessness for next year is £364,700.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. So we're spending £364,000 then discharging our duty on homelessness. Was that budget underspent or overspent in this current year?
I don't have those figures in front of me, but historically I don't believe it's one which is overspent. I think it's broadly on line.
Okay. All right. Because what's concerning, as I said, the right and proper way to have done this would have been through the scrutiny board, so these questions could be asked and investigations could be done, and then we could have worked out, you know, whether it was needed, whether £9,000 added to a budget of £364,000 is actually going to make a significant difference. I can tell you a story about a homeless individual in Fareham who I met. I don't know if it's the same 19-year-old a few weeks ago. Who I met up with, and he was telling me about his various problems. He was living in the stairwell of the Osborne Road multi-storey car park with some extremely unsavoury people. He had the bruises to prove it. And I said, well, where's your family? You know, what's happening to you? What's happening in your life? And he said, well, I've got a mother. I said, well, where's she? Well, she lives just near the Gillies in Fareham. Was she overcrowded or what? You know, she got room. Yeah, I've got my own bedroom. Well, why don't you live with her? Oh, well, I had problems with my father. Well, what's happened to your father? Well, he's just died. So I said, well, the very, very best advice I can give you is that you need to make up with your mother, and you need to move back home again. You know, that you've got a family home, and yet you're sleeping in the most appalling conditions with some of the most awful things happening to you. So a lot of them do have a story to tell, and I agree it is useful to work out that story, what that story is. And of course, Paul Doran has raised the issue of, yes, there were 18, but 10 did seem to be being helped, of which two have gone to prison, 6 don't want our help. So, you know, is £9,000 added to £364,000 actually going to change something? Or would we be better looking, perhaps in a little more detail, at the 364,000 and saying, well, what exactly are we spending that money on? What are we getting for our money? Sounds like something really that perhaps the Health and Housing panel with the executive member should be looking at, because I'm not for a moment dismissing the very valid point you're making, but it's a tiny amount of money compared with our overall homelessness budget. So perhaps we just need to be looking at our budget and seeing how we're spending it and whether what you're suggesting would be a better way of spending £9,000 of that money rather than simply adding £9,000 and spending another £9,000. So I'm more than happy for us to look at it and look at that budget, but I think it's probably something that isn't going to be done sitting around a table at an executive meeting, but perhaps it is something that the Health and Housing portfolio holder with the panel can look at. But anyway, perhaps Mrs. Mandry would like to comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I did ask to speak just now before Councillor Cunningham, but I think Paul actually said most of what I've been thinking anyway. What I was going to say about funding, we did apply for funding, but unfortunately we didn't get anywhere with it. I think it went to the cities, did not Paul? You know all that. Where I know that we did actually, I think it was about 30,000 we actually did apply for, but obviously we got turned down at the end of the day. But I also like to say to Councillor Cunningham, we don't just ignore our homeless people out there. I got the impression from what he said that we just sort of pretend they're not there. I know our officers do liaise with the homeless, and I know of one particular young man that we're taking very seriously, and I'd just like to let them know that. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, I think the other point really is it tends to fall into the public protection portfolio because, as I said earlier, there are a lot of agencies that we deal with within that portfolio who are dealing with homeless people. And, I too, as you're well aware, have been out quite regularly with the police and my own talking to these people, and it is a very difficult problem. It's not going to go away on its own, but, it astounds me, and the thing has already been said, the number of people who are intentionally homeless and don't want any help at all. And I'm not quite certain how you actually deal with those people. That's a problem I have. But I think across sort of health and housing and public protection, it's certainly something we could look at. But, and I think the other thing to mention is that, talking about the PSPO that's come into force, that deals with lots of other agencies. And as I said, I think we need to take into account what they're doing as well as Two Saints as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any other comments on this issue, or indeed on the revenue budget and council tax and everything else that we're talking about? Councillor Miss Bell.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a shame that this particular item wasn't brought forward at scrutiny so that more information can be gathered. One, about Two Saints, because obviously they don't just work in Fareham, they work outside of Fareham. And we could have found more information about what an outreach worker does and how the money could be spent. I would agree that we probably could look at it in more detail through public protection and housing, how much money we've already got in the pot and what we're doing with it, because homeless is an important issue, but I don't believe it's growing hugely within Fareham. I think Mr. Duran has already explained that. We keep a very close eye on how many homeless we have, how they're being looked after, how they're going through the process of being helped or not. So if we can look at it in more detail, it's difficult to do this around the table because we just don't have the partners around the table to do that. It should have been looked at, step back through scrutiny and been able to be looked at more closely. So I would agree that perhaps public protection and housing, along with the funding we've got, should be looked at more.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Cartwright.
Yes, I think just going back to the paper itself, I think really what I wanted to say was I think it's very helpful showing the 13% of gross spend in that respect we've put in. But I think the other thing to mention also is what good value the council taxpayers in Fareham actually get from us in comparison to a lot of other authorities. And I don't think we should lose sight of that.
Thank you. And did ask Councillor Price what the change was between the two papers, and we have now discovered what that is, and it's the figure in paragraph 24, which is the net rates payable from the national non-domestic rates after transitional arrangements and relief, which the new paper is 43.2 million rather than 42.9 million, which was in the other paper. So that's the difference between the two. So I think what I'm going to ask members to do then is to agree the recommendations on this, but clearly we're not going to change the budget tonight, and that's for full council. I would have thought it was more appropriate, Councillor Price and Councillor Cunningham, for the public protection panel and housing, health and housing panel to take a close look at this. There is the ability to via sums around within what is a very significant budget of well over £250,000, and if then, as a result of that, you should come back with recommendations to the executive, then we can do it. It doesn't have to be done as part of the council tax and the budget setting. We clearly have a homelessness prevention fund there, which is significant. So perhaps you could work with members on those panels to come up with some recommendations as how we best use that very significant sum of money. Does that sound reasonable?
Sharon, can I just sort of say to you, I accept totally is that without all of the answers around the table, it's very difficult to actually agree to increase the budget. But as it's such a small amount, are you prepared to actually sort of say is that should those committees having investigated it and feel that there is the need to actually spend an extra £9,000 on homelessness, that can be found somewhere within the current budgets which are being fixed?
If we need to do that,
Yeah.
we'll find it from within the spending reserve, yes.
Thank you.
But let's see what we come up with between you. Okay.